Hello and welcome to another episode of Incited. I'm Haley and I'm so excited to, have you back or I guess have you here if you're new. If you are new or even if you're not, make sure that you are subscribed, following whatever to Incited on whatever platform you're listening to this podcast on, just so you get notified at any new episode, especially if you're interested in productivity, time management, motivation, any of that stuff because with this podcast, my goal is to provide tips that maybe I haven't seen on the internet before that really helped me kind of get out of my 16-year long messy funk. So, yeah, on that note, now that I've gone through my little promo spiel today, I'm going to be talking about the summer, which I don't know about you, but I feel like every single day I'm on Reddit or something. I know it's kind of embarrassing, but I'm on A2C or something, and I'm seeing kids who over the summer they founded 8 startups and flew to 20 countries, which obviously I'm exaggerating, but I really do see kids who are just locked in over the summer. And I think for some people that's great. However, at the time that this episode is going up, it's May. So I assume that if you're listening to this, you don't know what to do with your summer. But I also assume that you maybe have an idea of what you quote unquote should be doing or what might be a good idea to do or what might not be. I'm just going to go through a quick list of what I assume a lot of you guys know, but just in case someone listening to this doesn't already know these things. I'm going to assume that, those pre-college programs that are usually really expensive and held at a university don't really carry much prestige. They're still good experiences from what I've heard. So if you can afford one and there's still signups available, absolutely go for it. I know people who have had amazing times over there, but generally for stuff that's a structured program, the more it costs, the less prestigious it's going to be, because then that means that you can kind of just pay to play to pay to get around it. Not saying that it's not a good experience, just if your main goal is sort of augmenting an application, it's not really going to be great. It's more of figuring out, hey, am I interested in this subject? Or if you really like the summer camp feel and you didn't necessarily want to go to a traditional summer camp and wanted to learn a little bit more, which also totally valid. I'm looking right now at my list. Oh, the other thing is you've probably heard about research. So just a quick I guess debunking of this, you do not have to be a STEM major to do research. You can do research in the humanities, you can do research, I think you can do art research. A lot of things can be considered research. And even if you are doing something within the humanities or arts, it's a little more difficult to do research in, have some sort of capstone project, which contrary to popular belief, that is not just for college seniors. So, if you don't want to research 18th century history, write that book that you've been wanting to write, work on that big art piece, just stuff like that. But I mean, I assume that research and things of that nature is already on your radar. But I am going to talk a little bit more about research and internships because I think that those are the number 1 and 2 things that people tend to, I guess, prioritize over the summer and say, oh, you should be doing research, you should be doing an internship. I think one thing that a lot of people kind of miscalculate is the power of a cold email. And I see a lot of people online talking about, oh, just cold email any professor, cold email any business to try and get an internship there. And then they complain that it doesn't work. But it's because they're not cold emailing right. If you're trying to write any sort of cold email this summer, whether that be for an internship, a job, research at all, you want to make sure that you know at least a little bit about who you're emailing, which sounds like common sense, but I guarantee you, I've seen so many people not do this. If you're trying to get on a professor's research team or, do research with a professor, look into what they've done. Know a little bit about what you're getting yourself into, and don't just try and do research because it's research. Don't just try and do an internship because it's an internship. No, make sure that you actually are caring about what you're doing, because even if you don't, even if you just want to put an internship on your resume, it definitely comes across if you really enjoy or care about what you're doing. So yeah, in your email, write something that, makes you seem interested. Go back through your email and read it as if you were receiving it. Would you think that this is some kid just trying to farm for their college applications? Or would you assume, wow, this kid really cares about molecular biology studies or whatever you're trying to do research in. Or this kid really cares about learning about data science careers if you're trying to intern in that, which, by the way, for internships, that's a whole other thing. If you're looking for an internship, something I can absolutely recommend, because my school does a sort of like job shadow day, and a lot of kids end up getting internships out of that. So if you know someone in your community, or if you know of a business in your community, send them an email and say, "Hi, I'm a local student at XYZ High School. I'm really interested in XYZ career, and I was wondering if I could intern at your business." And talk about why you'd want to. If they're a smaller business that doesn't traditionally do internships, you can maybe suggest what you're looking for out of an internship. Sort of, I'd say one thing is position it like you are offering them a service. And this kind of goes for the rest of your life. I read a book, which is, I think, the only self help book that I've actually considered not complete BS. It's called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, which, yeah, as I said, I'm normally not a self help book person. I can't stand them. However, this book actually had a lot of really useful information. And one of the things in it is to, when you're asking for something like for an internship, position it like you are providing the company a service, which in a way as an intern you are, but you want to make sure that at the forefront of like the mind of whoever's reading this is that if they accept you as an intern, then they are the ones benefiting. So even if they say no, even if they say yes, if you are positioning yourself as the one doing them a service, you are much more likely to get a positive response. And I do think that, especially if you are on the fence about a certain career, an internship or a summer job like this is definitely the kind of thing that can, give you a better idea of, do I really want to be doing this for the rest of my life? And the reason that I bring up internships and not just summer jobs is a lot of times, especially if you're trying to go into a very specialized field that requires like a strong background, like you're not going to get a job as like a paralegal as a high schooler, but you can intern at a law firm, for example, and sort of get an idea of what those careers do. So, yeah, that sort of leads into my next point. If you're not looking to gain any sort of like experience in one of these like, high demand fields, which generally are where more internships are, absolutely get a summer job. And if you're able to get one in one of those high demand fields, like good for you. But personally, the summer jobs and volunteer positions that I've had at summer camps have been probably the most useful like times of my summers that I've spent. More than like, I mean, I haven't really done anything that's like pre-professional, but I have learned so much that's going to help me in the future apply for jobs. It's helped me work with people a lot in school and extracurriculars. But I say that because, especially because a lot of summer jobs for high schoolers are going to be stuff like, summer camps, maybe working as like a cashier, working in retail, and that is going to help you in ways that you cannot imagine, oftentimes maybe more than one of these like career specific internships, because you will learn skills that are super applicable to the rest of your life. Like, for instance, when I've been working at summer camps, I've learned how to talk to little kids, which I think can definitely help you talk to adults if they're not acting right. And I've learned how to work with people who I get along with, and I've learned how to work with people who I cannot stand. So I think that those are skills where if I hadn't worked at one of these summer camps, I would not have developed them as fast. But you learn so much about not just like, communication and working with people, but about problem solving. Kids are dramatic. And let me tell you, theater kids are as dramatic as they get. So I've learned how to break up fights. I've learned how to work with people who I definitely do not get along with. And I think that the skills that you learn from working specifically, I will say, at a summer camp, because I've volunteered at a lot of different like types of summer camps. I've worked at one. But yeah, that is my number one actually suggestion. If you take anything from this episode, if you're bored over the summer and you really don't know what to do, I'm gonna say work at a summer camp, because you learn how to work with kids, you learn how to work with adults like parents and like older staff, you learn how to work with people your age who maybe you get along well with, the people who don't get along well with, You learn how to speak publicly. You learn how to speak clearly, depending on like the age of kids. You learn how to understand people and all of this. It sounds like very like basic, like, yeah, you think you already know how to do that, but no, you don't. Because I have met lots of people who I think like a week of like working with kids would change them. And I've met lots of other people in various of these jobs and volunteer positions. Not going to name any because I would like to get rehired slash asked back. But I've definitely met people who, I think that their skills might have been lacking in that department. So I think that working at a summer camp specifically, and I'm sure that there's obviously similar benefits of working other summer jobs, because I think number one, like my number one suggestion, get a summer job. But I think if you have the choice of any summer job, find a summer camp, because also there's a lot of them. There's so many like understaffed summer camps that are looking for people, and even if they don't pay, I mean obviously you hopefully want to get paid, but find a volunteer position. Working with kids is honestly, I think, the best thing that you can do for yourself over the summer. So yeah, that's kind of my take on it. I was just going to talk for like maybe a few minutes or something about getting a job, but that is my number one suggestion. Like, if you have the time, if you have the energy, and if you can find a paid position, especially, but full stop, working at a summer camp is the best thing that you can do over the summer. However, if you're not looking to work, if you're looking to just kind of like, maybe hone a craft, take a class or something, I'm going to sort of move on to stuff like that. But really quickly, I did mention volunteering. Okay, most of the summer camps that I've quote unquote worked at, I've volunteered at. And I will say it's still a great experience. I talked about how, getting hired, like getting money, like obviously that is a huge pro. And especially if you're in the situation where, you want or like need money, like obviously go for a paid job. But if you're just looking for experience, okay, I don't want to advocate for this, but if you are looking for hours to fulfill some sort of requirement, which, you know what, first of all, I will say you should be finding a cause that you actually support and care about to volunteer for. If you're just like the kid who sits in the corner of the soup kitchen with their phone out, like you are a jerk. So don't do that. Actually, put effort into wherever you volunteer, care about what you're doing. Do not be that kid who's just like in it to get the hours at the end of the shift. But anyways, that kind of concludes my rant. But if you are interested in just, getting experience in some sort of like job or internship or whatever, absolutely volunteer. Because I feel like this is so awful to say, but I feel like volunteering is so like slept on, because I keep saying, I know people X, I know people Y. I overhear a lot at my school because there's like 2,000 kids, but I know that people will just kind of count out volunteering and end up like instead scrolling on their phone all day. And maybe the idea of working for free doesn't sound great to you. I I guess I understand that. But if the options are scrolling on Reels all day or going and, working for free, which, okay, that makes volunteering sound bad. When you're volunteering, you are most of the time helping the community. So scrolling on Reels versus, going and volunteering in your community, which sounds better? I think volunteering in your community does, because if you're scrolling on Reels all day, like, guess what? You are not enriching yourself. And maybe, what? If you are volunteering, you're working like for free. I understand why that may not be desirable, but I think that it's still like eons better than just sitting there and scrolling. And you know what? If you do need a little bit of motivation, it will look good on your college applications. That shouldn't be the only reason. In fact, that should be like at the very bottom of your priority list. But it is a little bit of a motivator that might be that last final push that you need to go and volunteer somewhere. And if you're like, oh, but I don't know where to volunteer, literally just look online. Unless you live in the middle of like rural nowhere, I guarantee you that there's like a local organization, there's a local charity, there's maybe a local summer camp or something. Um, I've volunteered a lot of places. Oh, something that I really enjoy doing is if you can find one of those like walks or runs for charity, they always are looking for people, whether it's to cheer on the runners, set up the route, stuff like that. There's usually like one of those like every weekend going on, where, yeah, summer camps. That's another one that I was talking about before. A lot of most communities, I think it's like a government requirement that you need to have some sort of like shelter, like soup kitchen. They are always looking for volunteers. But I implore you, if you're like, oh, I don't know where to volunteer, yeah, unless you live in the middle of nowhere, open Google, because I guarantee that there is somewhere that you can be volunteering and that you can be helping out. Now, let's say volunteering isn't your thing, or you know what? Okay. If volunteering isn't your thing, then I think you kind of need to morally and like ethically lock in, unless you like need money. But otherwise, like volunteering should be your thing. But I'm gonna assume maybe you already have a volunteer position, or you have a job, or you help out your community and the people around you in some other way. Maybe you want to, take a class or have fun or learn how to do something, which I absolutely advocate for. Like, next to working at a summer camp or volunteering at a summer camp, my number two recommendation of what to do with your summer is absolutely to take a class or hone some sort of craft. Like, for instance, in my sophomore year of high school, I think I talked about this in an old episode actually, but my 10th grade English teacher, Mr. Bowman, if you're listening to this, you're the GOAT, by the way. Anyways, he had us do this project called the Play Doh Project, which is basically just like a glorified genius hour. And if you don't know what a genius hour is, it's basically kind of something you do in school where like you learn how to do one specific skill and it's pretty self guided, but you don't have to do that in school. You can take maybe an hour out of your day or maybe 15 minutes out of your day to learn how to do something. And for my Play Doh project or genius hour, I chose to learn how to crochet. And I did this during the school year, but I so easily could have done it during the summer. I would take, 3 hours every weekend and I'd watch a season of a show and I'd say, oh, I'm doing homework because it's for my Play Doh project. You can absolutely do that over the summer, but like you don't need to excuse it. So, if you do feel like doom scrolling or just binging TV all the time, you know what? Do it while learning how to do a skill, or maybe crafting isn't your thing. I totally get it. You know what? Start working out, start running, start lifting. At the beginning of the school year, actually, I got really into lifting weights and I haven't been to the gym in a while, but it is something that's, really fun, really awesome to learn how to do. And if you want to stay active, you know what? Start going for bike rides in the morning. Maybe hone a skill that you are really interested in. If it's something that's a little, harder to teach yourself, like if you're a math person, maybe you want to learn like differential calculus. A lot of community colleges, especially if you're in the state of California, the community college system is very like robust. But if you live near a local community college, check with your school to see if there's any sort of like free class option over the summer or discounted class option over the summer. And if not, oftentimes community college classes don't cost that much compared to, an online class from like a private resource or like Skillshare or something. But well, Skillshare is another option actually. If you can't find a physical like in-person class, go on sites like Skillshare, YouTube. But I would recommend, if you have access, which always make sure that you check first, if you have access to a community college that is offering courses in something that you want to learn how to do, usually more on the academic side of things. Not too many tend to offer a wide range of arts. But if you want to learn something that maybe Skillshare doesn't cover, that YouTube doesn't cover, absolutely try and find an in-person class in your area through, yeah, whether it's a community college, whether it's like a local rec center or something. It is absolutely so, so useful. And I actually did this the summer of 2020. I didn't take a community college course, but I did a course through this site called OutSchool, and I actually did two. One of them was kind of math related because I was doing algebra the next year. So I took this like pre-algebra intensive, which, it was helpful if you're taking a class maybe next year or you want to take one now to maybe prepare you, like absolutely go for that. If you know that you're taking, oh, an example of this that I know people have done is people who are taking Calc BC after pre-calc. They'll take Calc AB over the summer just so they have like sort of the foundations of it down. If you want to do something like that, be my guest. But what I'm like more kind of focusing on is the other class that I took throughout school, which is a class about YouTube videos. I used to really want to be a YouTuber, and I do love YouTube. It's just I hate video editing so much. I prefer audio editing. I mean, I'll do video editing, but when it comes to more of like the lifestyle content and stuff that I would prefer to film, I can't look at my face for that long. That's why, I love my podcast, because I record all of this as audio And when I'm doing this, like I'm cutting it a ton. My posture is like horrible. I don't have to worry about how I look on camera. So, anyways, I took this class about, growing a YouTube channel. And for a while, it definitely helped when I was doing that. So, I'd say, you know what, if you're looking for a way to hone a craft or just explore a new interest, like absolutely try and find a class for it. Yeah, once again, whether it's through like your local area or whether it's online, because there are so many resources on websites like Skillshare and Outschool, as well as just YouTube. Although I will say you'll have to sift through a lot more. YouTube has so many opportunities, so many tutorials, but I mean, I assume if you're listening to this podcast, you kind of know that already. But, anyways, I've gone through so many lists of, productive things you can be doing, like research, getting a job, volunteering, taking a class. But another very important thing to do over the summer is having fun. I feel like there's so much of a focus on, oh, you have to be productive, you can't waste your summer. But I think that the only way to truly waste your summer is if you don't enjoy it. Because you are in school, I mean, assuming you're not on like a year round school model. I don't know many people who are. I don't think I know anyone who is actually. But assuming you're not on like one of those funky year round school schedules and that you're in a traditional, like, August to June or like September to July, um, like American school schedule, then you have these like 2 to 3 months where you're not in school, and the rest of the year you are in school. So especially if you're taking those hard classes, you're probably going to need some sort of break. And if you don't, like, congratulations to you. You are not better than the rest of us. But I mean, props to you. Take all the differential calculus, take all of the Shakespeare classes, do whatever you want. But for 99% of the population, you probably are going to need some sort of break in that time. So it's not going to feel like a break unless you really spend it doing something that you enjoy. And I personally, like, I enjoy volunteering at summer camps every summer. And this is actually the first summer that I'm not doing that. But the reason that I'm not is because I'm doing other stuff to sort of fulfill me this summer. I was talking about summer programs earlier in this episode, and I got into one, which I'm really excited to attend. I don't want to say the name of it just because there's not too many people going to it. And I don't want to be like, doxing myself. But I'm really excited for it. And I do plan on, I think it's going to be July 22nd, to have a friend who I meet there on the podcast. So I'm going to order a second microphone and we're going to record an episode at one of our like off times during the program. I don't know who this is going to be yet. I've yet to meet one person except like someone on Reddit who's going to the same program as me. But I'll update you guys about that when I actually go. Hopefully, I do make at least a friend or two when I'm there. But I'm also going on vacation this summer, which is going to be super fun. But, anyways, all of that goes to show that if you are spending your summer doing something fun, whether that is volunteering or getting a job or going to summer program or learning how to code or like learning how to play the guitar, just anything like that, just goes to show that there are so many things that you can spend your summer doing and have fun. I know that I said my number one suggestion was to like work at a summer camp, but if that doesn't interest you, absolutely do not do that. Do not do something that you don't want to do if you can avoid it, because sometimes you can't avoid it. Sometimes you have to take that summer school class or you have to work that job. But if you have the free time, absolutely utilize it doing something that you enjoy. Don't waste it and scroll, because yeah, the only way that you can waste your summer is, I think I said earlier, the only way that you can waste your summer is not enjoying it. The other way that you can waste your summer is by sitting around and having a 12-hour screen time every day. And take it from somebody who has done that on multiple occasions. It is not fun. It does not feel good later. So find something to do with your summer, whether that's hanging out with your friends every day or, finding a job. Find something that brings you some sort of fulfillment, whether that be like experiential or whether that be social. Anyways, on that note, I am going to end off the episode here. I hope that you got some sort of idea on how you could maybe be spending your summer if you weren't already ready. Maybe you have an idea of how you want to spend your free time during the school year. All I can say is I hope that I saved you from like 18 hours of screen time a day. But yeah, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure that you follow, subscribe, do whatever on any platform. And even if you didn't enjoy this episode, please still do that and then shoot me a DM on Instagram letting me know what I should change because I am so open to suggestions. I know already that this was probably not my best episode. I sat here, I yapped, and it took me like an hour to record a 20-minute episode. So I am definitely always, figuring out what I can reflect on, what I can do better. And my goal is week after week to come through with an even better episode so I can always be improving. So yeah, if there's something that I can be doing better, shoot me a DM on Instagram. That's at INSIGHTED podcast. And I hope that you have a great next 2 weeks, and I will be seeing you on May 27th. Thank you so much. Bye.